A happy Thursday morning here. It is pretty early, but we're going to talk about Sean Payton. So, where's Sean Payton going to land? If he lands anywhere at all outside the broadcasting booth. So, right now there's 5 head coaching vacancies in the NFL. Sounds like the Cardinals are out of it because Cardinals didn't want to give him full control of the roster. So, I don't know if he'll end up coaching there or not. But um, if I'm Sean Payton, I'm kind of looking at these jobs and I'm maybe thinking, I don't know, do I want to do it this year? And I believe next year, if a team wants to get Sean Payton as their head coach, then he can coach for them without having to give up any sort of draft compensation or anything like that. So I think that's an interesting dynamic here, especially because Saints are asking for a first round pick.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 5 teams with head coaching vacancies: the Colts, Texans, Cardinals, Broncos, and Panthers. Now, interesting spots for each of the franchises. The Colts, they have 8 draft picks, 4th overall pick. They don't have their franchise guy yet, and only 13.2 million in cap space. Of course, cutting Matt Ryan will help. Um, I don't know. Have you heard anything about Sean Payton potentially interviewing with the Colts? I don't think I've heard any steam about that yet.
No, I haven't.
Mm.
Um, then the Texans have the 2nd overall pick. They actually have 2 first round picks, and I believe that in order to get Sean Payton, they'd have to probably give up their 2nd first round pick. But they don't have a franchise quarterback yet. They got 12 draft picks and over 40 million in cap space to spend before cuts and all that. And the Cardinals have the 3rd overall pick. They only have 5 draft picks for $14.6 million. And that Kyler Murray situation is kind of a mess, if you ask me. So I don't know if I necessarily want to step into that situation. Panthers, I feel like this one's probably the most attractive job because they're probably most playoff ready. They have the 9th overall pick, which they could always trade up and get that quarterback. 7 draft picks, and they're actually over the cap right now, $7.6 million. So then that leaves us to the Broncos, the 29th overall pick, which isn't their original pick. They got that one by way of trade. And they have Russell Wilson, which has been a weird dynamic in the locker room and everything. 6 draft picks, $9.3 million in cap space before restructures and cuts and all that. And apparently Sean Payton is seeking $20 to $25 million a year to come back and coach in the NFL. So out of all those spots that we named, where do you guys think is the best fit for Sean Payton outside the broadcast booth for right now?
I want to tell you what I think is probably the worst spot, and it would still be the Cardinals for me because it doesn't really change. They got new ownership or new GM, and this could have been because of the new rule. I'm not too sure, but they interviewed the Lions defensive coordinator, and as bad as the Lions defensive coordinator is, I can't imagine a defensive coach would help out Kyler Murray that much. They
Right.
just don't seem like they know what they're doing. I think that'd probably be the worst spot. The best spot, I think, would be Houston, and I think it's a little bit better than Carolina because they got a few more younger players that can be developed. They got Jalen Peach. I don't know what his last name is.
Petrie?
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
Derek Stingley. They just drafted an offensive lineman in the last draft, and then they'll be taking a quarterback with the 2nd overall pick. I think that's probably the best place he could go.
Yeah, I guess that would make the most sense. I mean, Texans have the most draft capital, most cap space. The only thing that I would think maybe that would turn him away from that position is just like,
The
you know,
ownership.
how player or how playoff ready is this team, because I don't think Sean Payton is coming out at whatever it is, 60, 61 years old to coach a team that's not going to go to the playoffs for the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Uh, my team is. So I want to say first, I think the whole conversation and trading for a excuse me, it's really early, but trading for a head coach is ridiculous. This is so dumb. Just release the guy and let someone sign him to a deal or something like that, or keep him. Okay, make up your mind.
Real
I
quick,
think the
if
Saints
they
trying to get compensation for him just because they have his rights is so stupid. I think there should be a rule against it in the league.
if
But
the Saints trade him for like just the highest trade offer, even if Sean Payton does Sean Payton have to okay it?
Um, well, the thing is he won't go and coach wherever if they trade him somewhere that has the highest draft compensation. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to go coach. Like that's the nice thing for Sean Payton is you know he kind of has the where he wants to go at his fingertips because he's retired right now, so he could wait another year and just say, "No, I think I'm good. I'm gonna stay in the booth for another year." And I don't think that should be, really something to look at as, "Oh, well, see, that was kind of just a scam that Sean Payton was coming back." It's like I don't think Sean Payton would be wasting his time going to interviews if he wasn't actually serious about getting a job at some point.
and there's been so much there's been so many of those scams that you've been saying this year with the Odell Beckham Jr. and
Yeah,
then Harbaugh and then now Sean Payton. I mean, it's just it's so much teasing in the media and everyone's getting so hyped up about it, which we're seeing in the past couple years by different players. But like since we've seen it so much this season, it's kind of ridiculous.
definitely.
Um, for my best team, obviously they're not gonna be able to land it because they don't carry the compensation picks, as in 3 first round picks or whatever the heck it is, or a first round pick. I think maybe the Denver Broncos. Um, I mean they got a they got a they have an okay roster. Defense is all right. Offense needs a little work. Obviously, this past season they haven't balled that well, but I think him and Russell Wilson would work very well together.
Yeah, I guess if I'm looking at it from the perspective of Sean Payton, I'm looking at all the job openings. I guess this doesn't just go for Sean Payton, but like all the other potential head coaching candidates this year. I look at all 5 of the job openings and I'm like, I don't think I'd want any of these.
Right.
I mean, in years past, there's usually been pretty attractive jobs. Like, last year there was the Vikings job and the Giants job. And, it's just, I mean, the Broncos job was pretty attractive last year, too. Now, this year, it's like, well, Russell Wilson's kind of a weirdo. So I don't think that job's really that attractive. And then, you want to look at somebody else who has a franchise quarterback. The Cardinals doesn't really seem like Kyler Murray is necessarily what you want in a quarterback either. So I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see here in the coming weeks, but this is going to be an interesting discussion that we continue to have until, it'll probably take until after the Super Bowl for him to decide if he really wants to come out of retirement or if he's just going to stay in the booth.
But go back to the last offseason. I mean, how many of those teams that made the playoffs, like the Giants and the Vikings, that didn't have any head coaches on their team, like just think of how unattractive they were. I mean, I don't know the Vikings. I mean, you guys are Vikings fans, so I mean, it's a little different point of view for you guys. But like the Jaguars, um, I know they had the franchise quarterback, but the whole team looked horrible last year. And I don't know if it was just because of Urban Meyer or what. I know that was the big scandal going on last season, but I don't know. I I wouldn't. I don't know. There's just, like the Giants and the Jaguars did not look good last year, and they kind of have the position of the Texans and some of the other teams this year. They're in the same spot, so you never know. Your identity could flip within one season.
Yeah. And then again, like we mentioned before, I think ownership is a big part of it. Um, I guess in the Texans case, it's like how much does ownership let him do what he wants to do, and how much are they going to put their hands on it? Because we've seen they're not exactly the most well-run organization in the league, so that's another interesting dynamic.
I've heard from one source that the interview went well with the Texans and both sides were impressed. And then Colin Cowherd seems to be thinking that it was pretty bad and it's just another owner being another owner. He doesn't really care that much.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. Like, I think we've talked about this with Jerry Jones before. The incompetence of these NFL owners of thinking that they know like the ins and outs of the game. It's like you really don't. Or like, Jim Irsay thinking that he knows everything about coaching. Al Davis with the Raiders. I mean, you got all these guys that think, oh, well, I know the game. It's like, yeah, but not exactly. I mean, Sean Payton's been through the league a time or two, and he's seen a lot and been really successful everywhere he goes. So I think to hand over the reins to him, at least in terms of a roster perspective, is pretty wise.
Could the Saints get like a player with it too? Would they even want to do that?
They could if they really wanted to. I mean, it's fair game. I think the last time we saw a head coaching trade was probably the John Gruden trade that took place, where he got traded from the Raiders to the Buccaneers. But I don't think this is something that we see all that often, and it's pretty rare. So yeah, pretty much anything is fair game. It's like trading for a player almost. Like there's not really any limits in terms of like what can be traded for him. But yeah, I guess might cause, depending on what the Saints want, might cause more problems with their cap situation.
So if the Cowboys go out and lose this week to the 49ers, do you think they give Sean Payton a call?
I think McCarthy's still there.
Yeah,
Really?
I saw stuff saying Jerry Jones said McCarthy's job's still secure even if they lose.
Is it something that I would do? Not really, but I think the nice thing is here. So I kind of criticize McCarthy because I was like, he doesn't call any sort of plays. He doesn't really manage the game. So what does he do as a head coach?
Right.
Well, I think we've seen like head coaches that go in there and they try to call plays, and it ends up being super overwhelming for them. So I think that's actually something that helps him a little bit, is to stand back from play calling perspective and just kind of let his coordinators do the job. And I think that's where you can look at McCarthy right now and think he's got it pretty good, with Dan Quinn and Kellen Moore. No, Kellen Moore almost being the head coaches of their respective sides of the ball. All right, since we got divisional round coming up this weekend, let's go ahead and rank each head coach that is still in the tournament, 1 to 4. Okay. So number one for my head coaching list, I think Andy Reid is still the best coach out there that's in the tournament right now. Number two, I'm gonna have his disciple, Doug Peterson, and at number three, I'm gonna do Kyle Shanahan, and then at number four, I will do Sean McDermott. So those are my top four coaches that are still in the playoffs as of this moment.
All right. I'm gonna go give Kyle Shanahan my top bet, and then I'm gonna
Okay.
give it to Andy Reid, number two,
Mm-hmm.
and Doug Peterson 3, I'm gonna take a shot here and take Brian Dable at 4.
Okay.
I got Andy Reid at 1. Shanahan at 2. I got Peterson at 3, and then I have Dable at 4.
Nice.
Okay. So number 5 for me, I guess I gotta go Brian Dable here. Number 6, I'm gonna say Zach Taylor. I still think there's things that need to be worked on there. I don't think he's, one of the greatest in the league yet.
Mm-hmm.
And at number 7, I guess I'll give it to Nick Sirianni. And then number 8 will be Mike McCarthy for me.
I like that. I got similar. I just have I have Sean McDermott at 5 for myself, and then Zach Taylor and Nick Sirianni, and then Mike McCarthy in the last place.
I got McDermott, Mike McCarthy. Then I have Zach Taylor, and then Nick Sirianni for my last one.
Do you think they give McCarthy too much credit? I mean, he's brought the Cowboys to the last 2 years. They've won at least 12 games.
I don't know about too much credit. I mean, you can kind of look at like some of the infrastructure of their team. So like they're still paying Ezekiel Elliott a ton of money. Dak Prescott's getting paid a ton, and he's kind of struggled as of late up until, last Monday. But I don't know about too much credit necessarily. I guess we need to see a larger sample size and more examples of like what he's doing to impact the game to see whether or not he's really the driving force here.
Is he the one calling plays for the offense?
Uh,
I think it's Kellen Moore.
That's what I thought.
Oh, rough. I'm not enjoying the Cowboys. Their whole salary situation is just a wreck. I know they're not in a lot of cap debt, but when they signed Zeke to that huge deal, I was like, what are they doing? Because we all here agree that running back's the number one position that you can replace. But, I mean, before that contract, Zeke was running like a maniac. He was just feasting every yard he could get. I know Tony Pollard's basically taking his job, and he's just sitting there like, all right, I'll just enjoy my time here and rack up some money, And then the whole Jerry Jones announced once they signed Dak to the extension that sometimes you gotta overpay just to win.
Oh man.
Like, way to put faith in your team, dude. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I think there comes a point in time where it's like, okay, you're spending so much on the quarterback position. Is he really that good to the point where, he's still driving your team?
Right.
Otherwise, I think it's just going to handcuff you.
How close do you think this game will be?
I think,
I think it'll be as close as it was last year.
no. I think San Francisco wins by at least 2 scores.
Me too.
Yeah, I think San Fran's going to take this all the way. I'm going to be absolutely devastated if Dallas wins. That'd be horrible.
Yeah.
Gosh, this is San Francisco's game to lose. And if there's any game for Brock Purdy to go down, this is it.
Yeah.
Can't wait till next week.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw, Tony Dungy had tweeted about teams coming off of a Monday night game. And when they play a road game on a Monday night and then play a road game the following week, those teams don't have very good success. So I think you can look at this as the NFL's kind of, by adding the Monday night game, they're making that team's chance of winning the following week that much worse.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
Yeah. I guess you can look at the Rams won the Monday night game last year, but I mean,
Yeah.
again, the Rams were the home team. If you're not really giving the away team a shot at all to win the whole thing. Well, that's it from us here today on this Thursday morning. And check us out for more of our videos, and we will see you next time.